The Arabian Nights, or sometimes simply called as the 1001 Nights, is a collection of stories, fantasy stories, magical stories from Arabia. And I'm sure most of you would have read them or listened to them during your childhoods. And in case you haven't, it is still not a bad time to go back to those stories and read them. And if you have read them, it's again a good idea to revisit those stories. And although these stories, they originated in or they were written in Arabia, they contain the folk cultures and the folk stories of many parts of the world, from east to west, from Asia, India, Africa, Europe. You'll find many of these stories and their origins in different cultures. So there is an interesting mixture of mythology and folk stories in them, but eventually you'll find that there is a kind of common theme in terms of magic and how that magic operates in those stories. So let's start with one story. In fact, this particular story is pretty much the starting point of the whole stories. And it's called Scheherazade and Shahryar. Let's start the story. Many, many years ago, there was a large kingdom. The kingdom stretched all the way from Persia to China. It then crossed the borders of China into India, where the holy Ganges flowed. For early 400 years, this prosperous kingdom was ruled by a royal dynasty. The kingdom reached its zenith under a particularly kind-hearted and just king who was also an able administrator. This king had two sons. These young princes were named Shahryar and Shahzaman. They loved each other very much. After some years, the just king died of old age, and soon enough, Shahryar, the elder son, took up the throne. He declared Shahzaman to be the king of great territory, which was an area of the Persian Empire. In due time, Sultan Shahryar took a beautiful woman to be his sultana. He decked her up in the choicest of precious jewels. He loved his sultana more than his own life. But after some years, Sultan Shahryar came to know that his wife had been unfaithful to him. She was also a very disloyal woman. As he was a just king like his own father, he followed the just way. So he sentenced his wife to death, as was the custom of the land. He ordered his vizier to carry out this cruel task. For many days after that, the sultan mourned of his wife. Then, in his anger, he decided that all women of the world are disloyal. To avenge himself, he started a cruel practice. Every day, he wed a new girl and put her to death the next morning. Each time, the vizier was appointed for this task, and he had to obey the sultan's order half-heartedly. All the citizens of the sultan's kingdom were angry and grieved with this. One day, the vizier's elder daughter, Scheherazade, said, "Father, the sultan's cruel ritual is not liked by anyone. I think I can put an end to it." The vizier asked, "Dear, that would be wonderful. All of the women and even the people of the city will be ever grateful to you. But how will you do this?" "By marrying the sultan," Shahrazade declared. The Wazir was shocked. Then tears welled up in his eyes. Dear daughter, you know what fate awaits you the morning after the wedding? I cannot kill my daughter with my own hands. But Shahrazade persisted, and the Wazir gave in, though with a heavy heart. The Wazir went to the Sultan and told him that his daughter wished to be his wife. The Sultan was surprised but agreed to the marriage because he knew Shahrazade was a very beautiful girl. The next day, the Sultan married Shahrazade in grand fanfare. As a gift in marriage, Shahrazade asked her father to let her sister Dinarzade accompany her to the palace. At night, Shahrazade addressed Dinarzade. Dear sister, I will ask the Sultan to let you stay with me tonight. Just before dawn, you must wake me up and ask me to tell you a story. Then I'll start my plan. But how will that save your life? Asked Dinarzade. Just wait and see, said Shahrazade with a smile. When the Sultan came, Shahrazade said, Your Majesty, tonight is the last night of my life. I request you to let my sister Dinarzade sleep with me. The Sultan agreed. Early before dawn, Dinarzade woke up and she said to Shahrazade, Dear sister, one last time, will you tell me one of those fascinating stories you know? A story? Exclaimed the Sultan. Yes, I know many stories. Please let me tell a story as my last wish. The Sultan agreed again. Shahrazade then started telling stories which went on for 1001 nights. They were so interesting that the Sultan could not kill his wife before learning what happened next. Thus, the clever Shahrazade began her story.